Good morning. Good morning. It's 2:35 a.m. I am on my way to the gym right now. I had a I had a very interesting night at midweek service. Like, let me tell you something about me. I did not grow up in the household where we was going to church. I did not grow up in a house where we talked about God. I did not grow up that way. And even though my grandmother was a God fearing woman. Her husband wasn't in church. And I honestly think that, and hear me out on this, and I love my grandfather. I love him. I was devastated when he died, and I was about 12 years old, 13 years old. But let me tell you something. God wants to ultimately, when it's all said and done, say, "Good job, good and faithful servant. You ran the race. You did a good job. You stayed the course." Meaning you did not get divorced for reasons that some people get divorced. You did not quit on a lot of things the way some people quit on things. And I believe that God called my grandfather home early because he knew ultimately it would have created such an anguish on my grandmother's life that she would not have had the opportunity to really pour into her family through her faith the way that she did. It would have probably been a distraction. That's what I believe. And so it's absolutely amazing that not only do I go to church, but my family goes to church. My kids, the people inside of my household go, and they don't go because I make them. They go because the example that I set, you know, and that means a lot. I believe that if I didn't go, I mean, maybe they still would go. I'll just give them the benefit of the doubt and said they would. But it's a high likelihood that if I said, "Hey, today we're not going to church, let's go play golf," everybody might say, "Okay, let's go play golf." But then at that point, they start to see me change and move in a different direction, and maybe they'll do the same. And that's not what we're working towards. Whatever you're working towards, work towards it in tandem, work towards it in unison. Work towards it in a group effort, because you can get a lot further with a group effort than you can with just trying to carry everything on your own. We had an interesting night. The person that came to speak talked about faith and obedience. And I'll just touch on faith real fast so that you have a clear understanding about what my definition of faith is. Faith is the belief that something that you have yet to see will happen. Faith is something that you want, that you have no proof of existing other than the fact that you want it, and you believe that it will come to fruition. That is my definition of faith. Faith is when you cast your cares to God and you say, "Hey, listen, here's what I'm going through, big fella. I need you to hook me up. I need you to plug me in. I need you to go to bat for me on this." And then you give it away and you step back. It's kind of like I have a mortgage lender, and when I give a client to them, when I say, "Hey, I got a potential buyer," when I send their name and phone number to them, I step back because I know that that person is in good hands. So it's the same situation, except you're giving it to God, or you're giving it to whatever it is that you feel like you can talk to or turn to that's bigger than you, that you put your faith in. The Bible says man should not put his faith in other man. Man will fail you. But if that's what you choose to do, then you put your faith in that individual and you step back. Obedience. Obedience is a different type of creature. Obedience is, some people might think in terms of a husband and a wife, and being subservient. Some people might think in terms of how a dog listens. But the obedience I'm talking about is an obedience and kind of a calling on your life. I think everybody has a purpose, and the biggest thing about this whole event last night was your purpose on earth is directly tied into your faith, and it's directly tied into your obedience. Now, let's take, for instance, the obedience situation. And I'll give it to you in a very light way. Obedience in the term of, or in the situation of, you know that you should do this, but yet you keep going this way. You know that you ought to leave this individual because ultimately at the end of the day, it's not benefiting you. It is taken away from you. It's tearing you down. It's breaking your heart. A man that you know is cheating on you, and he puts his hands on you, and all these other things, and yet he somehow, some way managed to stay a part in your life, and he does it by saying, I'm sorry, and I won't do it again, and please forgive me, and I love you, baby, and blah, 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 and you say, okay. But that voice that keeps gnawing at you every day, that keeps trying to direct you, you push it down and say, I'm tripping. People make mistakes. You start excusing it away. I have people calling me about buying houses all the time, and they want to do it, but then as soon as they get on the phone with me and I'm like, okay, here's 17 different ways you can make it happen, they come up with 22 ways that they can't make it happen. See, they were obedient to pick up the phone and call me, but then they became disobedient by excusing it away and saying, this can't be for me. And a lot of it has to do with your past, your beliefs within the circle, your family that you grew up in, about what you can and cannot have, what is yours. And I believe that anything that you can conceive or you can think of is yours. I don't believe you have limitations in regards to what is yours. I believe the only limitations are those that's put on you by the people who raise you and who instill certain values, morals, and principles in you. And those are the same people I also believe that it's fine to separate and create some space in between those relationships because there's no synergy. There's no mutual understanding about how this will work out, how it will go forward. So you have these thoughts, these ideas, you have this feeling that you have a purpose that's bigger than what you're living up to, but yet you won't go out there on a leap of faith that it can happen. And then since you won't go out on faith, then you just become completely disobedient to whatever it is that's talking to you. That's guiding you. That's giving you substance. You'll turn your back on it. Right? You'll turn away from it. You'll excuse it away. And everything that you want to have in your life is directly connected to your obedience and your faith. Ain't that something? The voice that's been inside of you. And we had a conversation. It was good because I was able to engage my family in the car, and I said, let me ask you something. Do you know when you're being disobedient? I don't remember what the responses were. I think they were different, but not quite what I was looking for. I said, you know when you're being disobedient when the same thing keeps gnawing at you. It keeps gnawing at you. And then my older son says, how do you know it's not from the devil? I said, well, that's a question that you would have for somebody who had no faith and did not believe in God. because anything intended to push you in the right direction is of God. So don't feel fear to move into it. The idea would have never came about if it wasn't something that was for you or something that you could do. But we conform. And I think that's the funniest thing. As uniquely created as we each individual are, we're so quick to conform, and what ends up happening is we get lost. We lose our identity. We lose who we are. We lose who we identify with because we don't want to be set aside. We don't want to be looked at as different. We don't want to be looked at as an outsider. We don't want to become an outlier because we don't want to be looked at as an outsider. We don't want to be shunned. We don't want to be isolated. We don't want to be disowned by our own family. So we succumb to the status quo. And we do it for so long, we forget and we lose who we are. I'm telling you real truth. I'm telling you stuff that I am experiencing, that I have experienced. I'm telling you what I know to be a fact. I'm telling you what other people can touch and agree on and say, yeah, it is. But I would think of all the different things that a person can do in their life, being disobedient to who they are and what they are, I think that is the biggest detriment to your life and to your legacy that you can put on there. And when gray hairs mix up with regret, at the end of the day, all you can think is, I wish I had been obedient to what I was told to do. And I get that every day. Trust me. There's systems and processes and all types of other things that I know that's inside of me that I know I can implement. And if I implement and I work it to its fullest, will create another level of life living. But then I talk myself out of it and I say, yeah, you could create this, but how are you going to do it? And then I'll go look at my phone, or I'll watch a YouTube video, or I'll find a way to distract myself. Because the one thing that is being told to me to be obedient to sounds like it's too good to be true, so I will move away from it. That's interesting. That's something I need to think about, and I need to dwell on, and I need to contemplate, and I need to give into today. You know, everything for me is today. If it came to me, why not? Why tomorrow? No, today. You know, when I started thinking about life insurance, I said, why tomorrow? Today. You know, if it's something big and it's something that gnaws at me, it's not tomorrow, it's today. It can't wait till tomorrow. It can't wait. Well, you might say, well, why can't it wait? Because it's come to me now. What would wait until tomorrow get me? Versus going all in on it now. Being committed to that thought now, being committed to that process now. There's a couple things that you're going to be able to do in your life, and they're all for yourself. One is you're going to be able to create a level of synergy where you can get around other people who will benefit you, and who will feed into you, and who will feed you what you don't get anywhere else. But you have to find those people. The second thing would be You're going to have the opportunity to design the kind of life that you want if you're willing to forget every single thing that you were taught. And I'm telling you, I look at my kids right now and I say, man, I think you're gonna have a leg up because what we're giving you is a little bit better than what was given to me. And if you take what was given to me and you make it a little bit better, you'll start to purify the process down the line of the lineage, and you will get to a point of a level of synergy within your own home, similar to the Kennedys. The Kennedys would feed each other mentally before they ever went outside their home and fed other people. See, I grew up in the exact opposite way. I think my dad fed me. I think the way he fed me was different than how he fed other people. I think he fed me more out of anger, not anger at me, but I think anger at the way his life was, anger at some of the things that happened, maybe even anger at the fact of how the relationship between him and my mother went. It could be a series of things. I don't think he took it. I don't take it personally that he was angry at me. I believe my dad loved me. I think that his anger, though, consumed him more than his ability to just be a loving father. And that was one thing that I take now, is that I never will let my anger out of life or things that have happened to me consume me so much that I put my kids in a position where they feel like, I can't win with this guy. So if you become faithful and you become obedient, and if you become disciplined, you set yourself up for a life worth living, a life on fire. But you have to exercise your faith. That is the belief in something that you did not see. It is not materialized, but you believe that it will happen. If you become disciplined and doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, doing what you say you would do, being in integrity, and if you're obedient, when it comes to you, you'll react on it. You'll be mindful of it. And you'll be quick to do it. If you can get those things in your spirit, those three things right there, your life will go in a dramatically different direction. How you develop those? Well, that's simple. It's what you tell yourself. Success starts from the inside out. Who you become is directly tied to who you think you are. That's why you'll see fighters and boxers always running around talking to themselves as they're running, 5 miles. I am the greatest. And then they get specific. You have to start telling yourself you're the greatest. And then you'll start getting around people who will support that. But you have to get those 3 things down. Faith, discipline, and obedience. And you got it.